Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to a brand new mod spotlight. Today, taking a look at Chisels and Bits. We're also part of a world's first, I think for me, doing two mod spotlights in one. We're also going to take a look at flat colored blocks. Both of these mods were made by Algorithm X2, the original mod author of Applied Energistics and Applied Energistics 2. He's since moved on to crazier things like Chisels and Bits. This mod is pretty much the end-all be-all mod for people who like designing and building stuff. If you're a fan of decorative builds, and as you guys probably know, I'm not that good at it. So don't expect anything super fancy to be shown here, but I will show you how to use Chisel and Bits to get the most out of what you want to do. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out Chisel and Bits, and we'll also be talking about flat colored blocks probably towards the end of the spotlight. So Chisels and Bits, if you look at it in JEI, you're not going to see a whole lot of stuff, and you're going to say to yourself, there must not be too much to this mod, but it's really a lot more there than you might notice at first. So I'm going to show you guys some of the ways to get started with Chisels and Bits. One of the first things you're going to want to make is a chisel. There's 4 types of chisels: stone, iron, gold, and diamond, and of course they have varying levels of durability, and they also affect what kind of blocks you can chisel. So for example, if you want to chisel obsidian, stone is not the way you're going to want to go, nor iron. You're going to need a diamond chisel for that. I'm going to go ahead and give myself a diamond chisel just to make things very easy. So what does Chisel and Bits do? At the very core of the mod, it allows you to interact with every individual pixel on a block and chisel it. Yoink, I just removed a pixel. Cool. So you can break these things down and you can kind of break it all and do all kinds of cool stuff. Look at that. I just cut out a whole line in this block. Neat. And now I've got chiseled bits of stone in my inventory, and I can go over here and place them down. So if I want to place these, let's just go ahead and right click. Cool. And you can place them vertically, you can place them horizontally, pretty much do all kinds of cool stuff with it. Look at that. Nifty, right? And you can place each individual chisel, or bit, I should say. You could get lost doing this for hours. But there's more, because you probably imagined to yourself that after about 5 seconds, you'd be kind of tired of breaking things one bit at a time, right? Oh, so by the way, real quick tip. As long as you have a diamond chisel in your inventory somewhere, you can hold bits in your hand and left click to break bits, just like you would if you were holding the chisel. And then right click, obviously, to place them again. So if you want to interact with a block like that, no problem. Now, if, for example, and it looks like I broke a little chisel here, I'm going to go place it back right in there. Nice. Notice, by the way, that once I did that, it turned it back into, instead of a chiseled bit block, it turned it into a full block of sand. So it converted it back to a normal full-on block. Anyway, if you want to do more than just chisel individual bits at a time, you can hold the Alt key on your keyboard to bring up a little radial menu here. This allows you to select different types of patterns, I guess you could call them, for chiseling and for placing bits. So for example, instead of doing a single bit at a time, which is what we were doing, we could do a line. And you'll notice now that based on the face that you're looking at, so for example, if I'm looking at the top face of this block, it'll do a line down. When I left click, it'll break that whole line. If I look at the side face and left click, it'll break the whole line in the direction I'm facing. And obviously the little bounding box there helps to point out which faces you're going to be moving. Okay. If you want to do a plane, this will do like a whole level. So left click to remove planes at a time. Pretty neat, right? You'll notice, however, your inventory is filling up really quickly, and that's going to probably harass you. So let's go ahead and right click, and we can place planes at a time as well. Nice. Pretty cool. Ta-da! Fancy. And if I wanted to, I could eventually just, let's break these guys. We'll do it in a plane, so that should hopefully be pretty easy to clear out. And if I'm smart about this, I should be able to turn this block all the way back into a regular old piece of stone, which when I break, I'll get cobblestone. Cool, right? Now, if you find that your inventory is rapidly overflowing with bits, go ahead and make yourself a bit bag. Pretty easy. Just some wool and a single chiseled bit of stone. Not too shabby. What you can do now is as you harvest your bits, so we'll do it in a plane, for example, you get one stack that's placed in your inventory, and remaining bits that you harvest will go into the chiseled bit bag. Very nice. So we can break that whole thing down, and boom. Now we have a whole bunch of bits. Notice that they have 512 per stack in here. Pretty cool. And we can also do that with sand, for example. We can harvest that down. Or grass. Neat. And you'll notice, ta-da, chisel bit, grass block, chisel bit, sand block, etc. Now, in the bit bag, you can delete bag contents. So if you just want to get rid of everything in your bag, just click here. I think it'll confirm before you're sure. If you want to get rid of, oh, by the way, holding shift will show you the block type so that it's a little bit easier, see? Neat. If you want to just, for example, get rid of sand, hold the sand bits in your cursor here and click. You'll say click again to confirm. Boom, all the sand is gone. Neat. Obviously, only the sand in the bag, not the sand in your inventory. Cool. If we want to get rid of that, boom, no problem. Okay, get rid of the grass blocks, or if we want to get rid of everything, just click and again to confirm, and it's all gone. Neat. So we've checked out a couple chisel patterns. We've seen the bit and the line and the plane. What other options are there? We can also do cubes. So if you want to just get rid of a whole corner of a block like that, small cube, medium cube, and large cube. Sweet. And you can do the same for placing it. So for example, notice we have a bunch of bits here. If we wanted to place that, we could do the same thing. So if we want to place a large cube, no problem. Awesome. Eventually you may run out of bits, as I just did, so it only places as many as it can. If you want, you can just go ahead and chisel that out. See you later, bits. And get your bits back. So I've placed 3 blocks of cobblestone here to highlight the difference between normal cubes and grid snapped cubes. The difference being that grid snapped cubes snap to a grid. I know, makes sense, right? So grid snapped cubes will always align to the grid and only allow you to place them in a specific location. So for example, a grid snapped cube I can only place here, 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 or here. That's it. Those are my 4 options, right? With a non-grid snapped cube, I can kind of place them anywhere. Neat. Another super cool feature is the ability to undo and redo, and you can even keybind these. So if we take a look in the options and under key bindings, there's a lot of keybinds for Chisel and Bits, like a whole lot, like a real lot of keybinds. Pretty much everything you would ever want to do in Chisel and Bits. But this is really cool. So like say I was building something and I didn't like the way it looked. I could just hit my undo button and it undoes my last few steps. Or I could redo to replace my last few steps. Cool? I like it. Very cool. So for example, if I had a plane here and I just wanted to and then undo, 1, 2, 3, 4, redo, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice, right? So that's pretty awesome. And of course, you can chisel out individual bits for other purposes. So for example, let's get ourselves some lapis bits, okay? And what we could do here is let's make a neat little pattern. So I'm gonna dig out some bits on the top of this block, right? We'll do like you, and then I'm gonna place them. Ta-da! How cool is that, huh? I could even like do this. Nice. So as you can see, there's pretty much no end to what you could do with Chisel and Bits, but we haven't even scratched the surface. So one of the items that comes with it is the wooden wrench. This allows you to rotate your Chisel and Bits designs. So simply right click on the face that you want to rotate. So notice I'm right clicking on the top of this block. Boom. If I right click on the side, it goes there. Now it's on the bottom. Now it's there. If I right click on this side, cool. So that's important when you're doing something like, oh, I don't know, let's place down some medium grid snapped cubes, huh? And just to make this even easier to see, I'm gonna go ahead and get some sand. Okay. And then we'll do our medium grid snapped cubes here. Undo. Cool. So if I wanted to rotate on this face, no problemo. If I wanted to rotate on this face, no problemo. So just pay attention to what face you're clicking on, and you can rotate your Chisels and Bits. And we already talked about the fact that you can break Chisel and Bits blocks. So if I break this, boom, I get it. Nice. And I get the chiseled sand. And I can just go place that wherever I want. Cool. So you notice that it's placing it up there. I can hold shift and place it kind of anywhere in a block. So if I want to place it like this, cool, right? And now it's really two different blocks. But I can undo that, and I get my bits back. Pretty cool, right? You can also, by the way, rotate this. So if I hold shift and mouse wheel, I can rotate it a little bit. Pretty fancy. And of course, without holding shift, it kind of snaps to the block in the same place that it was at, but holding shift lets me kind of place it wherever I want. So cool. Now, you're not restricted to solids with Chisels and Bits because we have the Chisels and Bits fluid tank. Very easy to use. Just get a bucket of whatever fluid you would like, and yes, that does include lava and other fluids. Pretty much any fluid should work, including mod-added fluids. And you can get some bits of that particular type of fluid. Nice, right? So I'll go ahead and do this, and I think all you do is right-click on it, boom, and you get some chiseled lava. Neat. And I'll also get some chiseled water. Cool. And of course, many of those bits are going into my chiseled bit bag. See? So let's do like a plane like that. And then I'm going to do a plane like that. Haha, cool. How neat is that? So much cool stuff you can do with this. There are other types of things that I haven't covered just yet. For example, there's the drawn region. We haven't talked about this one yet. This is pretty cool. You can just right-click and drag and draw out a region, if you like, and pretty much make whatever size structure you want. So like if I want to do something like that, I didn't have quite enough bits for it, so let's get a few more of these. Yay, lots of bits. And then we'll try that again, right? So right click and drag, and we'll come out to like here-ish. Boom. Neat, right? Ha, cool. Undo. Super cool. And then one more thing that we haven't covered yet is the connected plane. Now this is a little bit tricky to understand the difference between, but I think I should be able to demonstrate it for you guys. So for example, if we wanted to remove a plane versus a connected plane, if I left click to remove the whole plane here, boom, it removes that whole vertical line, right? So undo that just so you see it, okay? That's a plane. A connected plane will kind of look at the block that you're right-clicking on, and it'll remove in relation to what you're clicking on. So if we do a left click here, notice that it didn't remove these bottom rows, right? So undo, redo. Okay, so that's the difference between plane and connected plane. Connected plane works on what you're currently doing, like that, whereas plane will do the whole thing. Cool. Undo, back to normal Minecraft, cobblestone. So cool. All right, so we've covered all the different types of these things, right? So you should have an understanding of what all these do. And we've also covered undo and redo. We've covered the ability to break and replace your chiseled blocks. Sweet. And we've covered chiseling. And we've covered the bits bag, but there's more. So one nifty item to take a look at briefly is the diamond bit saw. Basically, it allows you to carve up a block ahead of time into appropriate sized pieces. So if we place the saw above a piece of cobblestone, it'll cut it in half that way. If we place it to the side of cobblestone, it'll cut it in half that way. So that versus that. So like a half slab sideways, and half slab on the other dimension, right? So X, Y, and Z dimensions basically there. And of course you can carve up like these guys too, right? So different sides, different directions, that kind of stuff. So the diamond bit saw is basically a way to create the patterns that you use with bits just ahead of time with a crafting. So maybe you could like auto craft with that or something cool. Another nifty tool that you should be aware of is the tape measure. So this thing is super awesome. The tape measure allows you to measure out in terms of blocks, distances, or bits. Okay, so let's look at blocks first. And you can also have different colors for this too, which is cool. So for now, we'll go with blocks. Okay, and we'll use blue. So all you do is hold right click, and notice that it's telling you it's like 1 meter by 1 meter. Okay, and shift right click to clear it. So if we hold right click and drag this out, I'm gonna get myself the perfect design, a 9 by 9. Sweet. And if we want to get the height on that, it shouldn't be too hard. So again, shift right click with this thing to remove it. And then there you go. And we can see it's an 11 by 9 by 5. Pretty cool, right? Now, if you wanted to measure in bits, shouldn't be too hard of a problem. So I think we can just do 15 bits. And notice when you get to the 16th bit, it shows it as a meter, right? So if we went out like this, we could see it's 4 meters and 13 bits by 1 meter and 11 bits. Sweet. And then for distance, you can see it's just a straight line of distance. So 4 meters and 14 bits on the diagonal. Cool. Instead of just a cube. So if we did like the same-ish pattern here, it would be like that. And obviously, as you can see, you've got different distances laid out at the same time. If we wanted to, we could have different colors out there at the same time. So if I wanted to do, block length in red, and I wanted to do distance in green from here to here. Neat. So 1 by 7 and 7 meters and 2 bits. Pretty slick. So a very handy tool, especially if you're going to be doing lots of building or lots of patterns. And again, shift right click clears all the rendering with the tape measure. Super awesome. So let's say you found a pattern that you really like. So for example, I'm going to break out of the bits here and say, I like this little smiley face I made, but I want him to have like fiery eyebrows. That would be cool, right? Really thick, fiery eyebrows. Sweet. It's so cool, right? I want like 1 million of these blocks. How could I do that? Well, we've got patterns. So there's 3 types of patterns that I'll explain to you guys. The positive chisel pattern is the most complex and the most powerful. Negative chisel and mirror chisel patterns are also useful. So let's take a look at the positive chisel pattern. It's really easy. All you gotta do is right click it. Boom. And now this positive chisel pattern knows all about this stuff. So you notice that I can come over here and right click and boom. I've just copied it. So how does this work? There's actually 4 modes that your pattern can be in. The mode that we're currently in, I think, is probably impose. I think we're in impose mode, right? Yes. So what that does is it basically replaces the bits that are currently in the block with the bits that need to be there. So it'll remove blocks that it needs to. Now additive, I want to say, is like that, but it won't remove existing blocks. Okay, so that's an important difference. Notice how additive is not removing it. Now, why would we want to do that? I'll explain it to you in a bit once we get maybe a little bit more of a complex block system over here. Okay, so then you also have placement. So with that, you can simply place the whole block itself, provided you have enough bits. So we're going to need like an entire cobblestones block worth of bits to place this. I don't know if we have it, so it's not going to let me. And then there's replace, which is the only one I haven't covered yet. And that'll just replace what's currently there. So like it'll completely remove this sand block and place as much as it can. See, it did that. I didn't really have any cobblestone bits on me, I presume. So that's why it didn't place any, right? So I'm going to undo that. So that's the difference. You can also hold shift and mouse wheel to rotate it. Sweet. And that's pretty cool. So let's get a different pattern. Let's get a pattern that's a little bit more interesting, like this pattern over here. Boom, copied. Okay, so it's using sand and water. Do I have a bunch of that? I have some sand, I have some water. Cool. So let's use this one as another example to show what the difference is between these 4 types, okay? And we'll do it on a cobblestone block. So for example, and I'm gonna do a couple different distances here, right? So placement would, boom, place it on top of the block, right? Undo. And replace will replace the block I'm looking at with exactly what I want. So it gave me all those chiseled bits of cobblestone and placed the sand and water there. Undo. And then impose, if I do that, notice that it removed just the cobblestone that it needed to remove in order to place the sand and the water in place. Pretty cool. Okay, and then let's go ahead and remove some planes here. Now, if I were to do additive, what it would do is it wouldn't replace any of the blocks that are there, but it would add the pattern to the existing bits without overwriting existing bits, right? So the difference there is that additive doesn't overwrite existing bits, okay? But impose does overwrite existing bits, provided you have enough, which I didn't. Okay. So let's get some, just so we're clear on this. Okay, so impose, there we go, right? Overwrites existing bits. Undo, whereas additive does not overwrite existing bits. Also, by the way, if you're in placement mode, you can hold shift to do that whole place it wherever you want kind of thing. Neat, right? And you can mouse wheel the shift as well. Boom. Boom. Pretty cool. So a negative chisel design is just a little bit different. So I'm going to copy this. Negative chisel design doesn't really matter what blocks or block types, I would say. Like, it doesn't matter if it's sand or if it's water or if it's cobblestone, whatever. Basically what it does is it removes the chiseled bits from the pattern in the same pattern that the block is. So this is this guy, right? So if we came over here and right-clicked this, it would remove everything but. Cool? So it basically allows you to have the same design, but made up of different block type. Pretty cool, right? So if I undo that and do it again, boom, removes everything but the pattern that we had over here. So say, for example, I made a really cool pattern, but I wanted it in a different block type. So I wanted it out of lapis, for example. All I'd have to do is place the lapis block down and hit it with this guy, and boom, I've got that super awesome pattern. And the final thing I want to show you is the mirror chisel design. So this is the third type of design. So we've seen the positive one and the negative one. This is the mirror one. So for example, we've got this nifty design, right, that we can rotate if we want. So right now it looks like that, or we can rotate it to do something like that. But what if I wanted to mirror it so that the water was on the same side, right? What we could do is get our mirror chisel design and simply right-click on this guy. And you'll notice what it kind of looks like here, right? So we can see all these when we hold shift. Awesome. Go ahead and get a positive chisel design and craft it with the mirror design, and we can get a positive design that matches this guy. So now we'll see this positive design is kind of the opposite of this one, so that when we go to place it and we want to put it in placement mode, boom, now the water is on the same side. How cool is that? Super awesome and useful. Very cool, right? So that's the mirror placement, right? As opposed to the normal placement. And you can mirror any side of the block, obviously, as long as you right-click on the correct side. Pretty cool. I should note for you guys that when you're doing things like the negative chisel design and the positive chisel design, it uses the diamond chisel in your inventory. So, for example, we wanted to right-click this dude. Perfect, right? Undo it. What if we don't have a chisel in inventory, right? Doesn't work. You need to have a chisel in your inventory in order to do things. Same with, left-clicking with your bits, right? As long as you have a chisel somewhere in your inventory, you can left-click to your heart's content, you can undo, and you can do this stuff. Cool? And another thing I want to touch on, because pretty much everybody who's seen this mod has to say, at some point, how much lag is this going to create in my world? Is it going to kill my frame rate? Is it going to destroy me? Nope. Algorithm did a really good job and worked really, really, really hard to get this super performance efficient. It does some really complex stuff that I couldn't even begin to understand if I spent a year learning it. But Algorithm knows what he's doing. And you'll notice that I'm not having any frame rate issues. And I'm not going to say a large number of chisel blocks in my world, but I've got a few. And they're doing just fine. They don't impact performance at all. So trust me when I say performance should not be a huge concern of yours. He did extensive testing with this mod, and it's definitely, friendly on performance. So I think I've pretty much covered everything to show you guys basics-wise in Chisel and Bits. Obviously, the sky is the limit. You can literally do anything with this mod. I mean, anything. You can create any pattern, any design. You can make chairs, you can make tables, you can make ovens, you can make literally anything that you can come up with, as long as you can place it. And once you get like a little bit good with the different kinds of block types that you can do, it's really impressive how quickly you can build neat stuff, right? So I could do something like this. Let's put a a block space here to help me out, right? And I'm going to do this with grid snapped cubes, right? Medium ones. And then a plane. Whoops, undo. I said a plane, please. Look at that awesome little table. How cool is that? That took me, what, like 10 seconds to do? And I derped up a little bit? Awesome. And then if I wanted more tables like that, not a problem. I can just get myself a pattern of it. Boom. Now I can make all the tables I want. Boom. So cool. So yes, there's literally an unlimited number of things you can do with this mod. It is super awesome. You know, if I decided that, hey, these legs are cool, but maybe I don't want them there. So let's go ahead and do the grid snapped medium cubes. We're going to remove those legs, and we're going to do it in wood, right? So let's get some wood bits, just so I have a decent number of them. And maybe I want them in wood, right? 1, 2, 3. Cool. And then I can just remove these and put the wood in place. That is awesome. And maybe I would say to myself, you know what? I think, you know, I'll do this one too. There's so much you can do, obviously, with this mod. Like, you could have chairs, you could have all kinds of cool stuff, right? So, the sky's the limit. There's one more thing I want to show you, though, and that is a different mod, also written by Algorithm, also totally designed to work with the mod that we currently are playing with, which is Chisel Bits, and that is flat colored blocks, which adds one item. It doesn't add one item. It adds like a ton of items, but it adds one item that lets you craft all the items that you want to make. So let's get it. It is simply the colored block crafter. Cool. Right-click to open up a big UI that's currently empty. Why? Because this allows you to craft colored blocks. All you need to do is have in your inventory either cobblestone, glass, or glowstone. You can see that cycling on the tooltip there. It also apparently works with quite clear glass from Ender.io. But by default, cobblestone, glowstone, and glass, plus some kind of color in your inventory. So let's get red dye. Boom. Let's also get, I don't know, some lapis. And we'll get some cobblestone. Okay. What this allows me to do when I right-click the colored block crafter is it gives me a bunch of different flat colored blocks that we can use in our chiseling bitting for all kinds of cool stuff. Look at all the different colors of red there are. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 by 4. So 27 blocks of red. And then there's some azure, and there's like a whole bunch of those, like some really good blues. Nice, right? So large amounts of different colors that you can play with. And if you don't have any cobblestone on you, you can also, I mean, you can do it with cobblestone too, but we'll do glass just so you don't have to scroll through it all. You can get glass, and then you can also get glowstone, which is pretty much the same as cobble, it looks like, but it'll emit light, I presume. So pretty nifty, right? And of course, these can all be chiseled, right? So if I had this really nifty looking blue block, Azure color number 832, whatever. Let's do that again. There we go. Fancy. Just a perfectly flat color, no crazy designs, no crazy textures, but perfect for chiseling and bitting because you can do all kinds of good stuff with it, right? So, ta-da! Very fancy, right? And then we can kind of put that into our blocks. Super cool. All right, guys. So I think that's a good wrapping up point for the spotlight. So Chisel and Bits plus flat colored blocks. Hope you guys enjoyed checking it out. Check out some Let's Plays from people who are playing with this. Like I know Rorax has done a bunch of really cool designs with Chisel and Bits, so definitely check her out. And I think Wild's done a few, so I don't know if he has any like recorded footage because I know he usually streams, but definitely pretty much endless possibilities with Chisel and Bits. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take a look at the mod. It's really cool. And for now, Direwolf20 signing off. Take it easy.